Welcome to our video on something that should be as uncontroversial as kittens in a basket, if those kittens were capable of providing essential services to millions of Americans, protecting and expanding social services. Now, I know what you're thinking. Social services? That sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry on C-SPAN. But hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to delve into 7 concrete strategies that can make a real difference. We're talking about the kind of difference that can uplift communities, empower individuals, and yes, even bring a little bit of joy into this often cynical world. Because when we strengthen our social safety net, we're not just helping those in need, we're strengthening the very fabric of our society. Welcome to our video on protecting and expanding social services. Today, we'll explore 7 key strategies that can make a significant impact. First up, we need to crank up the volume on why social services matter. Think of it like this. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? More importantly, if a vital social program gets gutted and nobody even notices, does it really matter? Well, it damn well should. We need to be shouting from the rooftops about the importance of these programs. We're talking about things like affordable housing, accessible healthcare, and quality education, the very pillars of a just and equitable society. This means launching campaigns, flooding the airwaves, and yes, maybe even engaging with those elusive creatures known as policymakers. We need to make it clear that defunding social services isn't just bad policy, it's morally bankrupt. Awareness is great, but let's be honest, it's not going to keep the lights on at your local community centre. That's where policy and legislation come in. We need to be pushing for policies that put our money where our mouths are, because frankly, our collective mouth has been writing checks that our social safety net simply can't cash. We're talking about fighting for increased funding for essential programs, advocating for reforms that cut through bureaucratic red tape, and holding our elected officials accountable for prioritizing the needs of the most vulnerable among us. It's time to stop treating social services like an afterthought, a luxury we can't afford. They are not optional extras like heated seats in a car. They're the damn engine. Here's a radical idea. Let's actually listen to the people social services are supposed to be serving. Shocking, I know. We need to move away from top-down solutions and embrace the power of community engagement. Who better to tell us what works and what doesn't than the folks on the ground, living these realities every single day? We need to create spaces for meaningful dialogue, where community members are empowered to shape the very programs designed to support them. This isn't just about being nice, it's about being smart. When communities have a seat at the table, we end up with more effective, sustainable, and culturally relevant solutions. Look, we're not going to solve complex social problems in silos. It's time to break down those bureaucratic walls and embrace the power of partnerships. We're talking about government agencies, non-profits, private sector organizations. Everyone needs to be rowing in the same direction. Think of it like a giant, slightly dysfunctional potluck. Everyone brings their own unique ingredients to the table, and when we combine them effectively, we end up with something truly nourishing. By sharing resources, expertise, and maybe even some of those delicious potluck leftovers, we can create a more robust and responsive social safety net. Listen, we love a good, heartwarming anecdote as much as the next guy. But when it comes to securing funding and demonstrating impact, we need cold, hard data. We need to be tracking outcomes, measuring effectiveness, and using that data to make a compelling case for continued and increased investment in social services. Think of it like this. You wouldn't keep investing in a stock that's tanking year after year, would you? Well, the same logic applies here. We need to be able to demonstrate that social services are a smart investment, one that pays dividends for generations to come. And if that means we have to drown out the naysayers with a tidal wave of data, well, so be it. Facts don't care about your feelings, but they do care about improving people's lives. Here's a hard truth. Our current system isn't working for everyone. Marginalized communities, people of color, LGBTQ+ folks, they're all too often left behind by a system that wasn't designed with their needs in mind. It's time to address these systemic inequities head-on. We need to be intentional about designing and implementing social services that are accessible, culturally relevant, and responsive to the unique challenges faced by different communities. This isn't about special treatment, it's about creating a level playing field. Because a rising tide may lift all boats, but if some boats are starting with holes in their hulls, well, that metaphor falls apart pretty quickly, doesn't it? The world is changing faster than ever before, and our approach to social services needs to keep pace. We need to be willing to embrace innovation, to experiment with new models, and to adapt to the evolving needs of our communities. This means thinking outside the box, challenging the status quo, and being open to solutions that might seem unconventional. It might mean incorporating technology, exploring new funding mechanisms, or simply finding more creative ways to connect people with the resources they need. The point is, we can't be afraid to shake things up a bit. After all, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And frankly, when it comes to something as important as social services, insanity is a luxury we simply can't afford. So there you have it, folks. 7 concrete strategies for protecting and expanding social services. Strategies that are grounded in compassion, backed by evidence, and driven by a deep commitment to creating a more just and equitable world. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds like a lot of work. And you're right, it is. But here's the thing. Creating a better future for ourselves and for generations to come is always going to require effort. It's going to require us to be engaged, to be informed, and to demand better from our elected officials. But most importantly, it's going to require us to believe that a better world is possible. Because when we believe in something, when we fight for something, that's when real change happens. So let's get to work. Thank you for watching. By implementing these strategies, we can ensure that social services continue to support those in need. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more informative content.